This is the Motivated Business Show, hosted by me, Mark Terrell, the author of Motivated, the Reluctant Leader's Guide to Building a Business that Sets You Free. In my book, I share the 7-step process to get the measure of your business. M.E.A.S.U.R.E is an acronym that stands for Mirror, Evaluate, Action, Systemize, Unify, Review, and Energize. On each episode, I'll be chatting to a business owner about how they stay motivated and how they've got the measure of their business. So without further ado, let's find out who's joining me on this episode. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Motivated Business Show with me, Mark Terrell. Today I have a sales expert. It's one of the things that most people struggle with. They think sales is an evil word in many ways, but actually, hopefully, after this episode, you'll look at it in a different way, like I did when I met Ian. And I met Ian at an online networking event, I think back in lockdown days. And then from what he said, I knew I had to sort of have some words of wisdom from him. It actually turns out that we did some one-to-one work together, which has been really beneficial, and I'm sure we will mention that during the episode. So before we get stuck into that, just want to remind you of my book, as I will mention what's in that book as we go through the episode. In that book, I talk about the 7-step process, which I called Getting the Measure of Your Business, and I will be referring to bits and pieces from that during the episode. You can get that book from Amazon, either in book form, paperback form I should say, or Kindle form, or you can get it direct from me, which is on my website, and I will share all the details either in the comments if you're watching live or on the show notes. Okay, so without further ado, I think we should bring Ian on. Welcome, Ian.
Hello there, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, good. Thanks for giving up your time today. Really looking forward to having a chat with you. Before we go on, though, I think it's only right that you should be able to introduce yourself. So let you do that.
So I am Ian Genius with an Ian Genius alternative to selling. So shall I tell the people at home the sort of problems I solve and what I do? So one of the biggest frustrations for passionate solopreneurs is how many hours, how many precious hours are wasted in discovery calls that fizzle out. You know, they get to the end of yet another 40-minute conversation with a potential client, only to hear those dreaded words, "We'll have a think about it," before poof, they vanish. They had a problem. You had got the perfect solution, but something went wrong and the conversation completely fizzled out. For others, that's not the case. You know, they get to the end of the conversation, the potential client converts into a spending client, but they're always taking the bronze instead of the gold. They take one of the 5 services that are recommended. They use them for a month instead of a year. So the yeses, they're not beneficial. The client misses out on the help, you miss out on business, or maybe they're selling loads of services, but they're just not charging what their service is truly worth. So I show businesses how to turn no's into high ticket yeses.
Brilliant, and I think that's what most people want, isn't it? They want to be able to make a difference, and we've talked about this before we came on air about people actually want to make a difference, and they've got a caring attitude to their customers. But when it comes to actually selling, that's when the problem starts. It's they don't seem to be able to get the message over. So, what do you see as the biggest problem when it comes to that first conversation, trying to get those leads to buy our services?
So these are typically, if you take a solopreneur, they've been in a business all their life. There was one thing they loved doing, and there was probably lots of things they didn't. And they set up their business because they love helping clients, they love providing their fantastic service. Unfortunately, they hate selling. You know, they see sales as sleazy, dishonest, greedy. They're not confident selling themselves. They're uncomfortable bringing up their price, often unsure what that price should even be. They normally hate being sold to. So the idea now that they need to get good at selling, the one thing they despise over all things, just does not work. The idea that they've got to use a closing technique where when someone says to you, which one do you want, the blue one or the green one? And you haven't said you wanted either. So you're in a fight or flight scenario. So you end up buying under duress, regretting with buyer's remorse, cancelling abruptly and telling everyone to avoid you like the plague, right? So there are all these fears and phobias, and they got a phobia of, maybe a fear of rejection. So they got a fear of rejection. They don't like putting people under duress. So the whole thing stinks the place out. And I get it, because that was me. That was me. I am the salesman that hates selling. So I love sales. I hate selling. So I found an alternative. I've spent the last 25 years as a salesman that finds a lot of the approaches manipulating. They're just horrible and sicky. So I've spent 25 years removing the selling from sales so that others, they can help clients make better choices.
Yeah, and that exactly reiterate what you've just said there. And I think what it is about is understanding the real value that you bring to the problem, isn't it? And we're all trying to solve a problem, and no one's going to buy something if they haven't got a problem. First of all, you've got to, like you talk about, it's an emotion that we buy by, and then when
Yeah.
we have to justify that purchase, then that's when logic kicks in. So we've got to cover both bases. So how do we connect emotionally and then also take into account the logic that comes after?
Okay, and again, I'll just give a quick example of this rule. So the rule is people buy on emotions and justify with logic. And this rule always applies. It never breaks. So if you went to the clothes shop and you saw a coat that you liked, and you went to the coat and you thought, I love that, make me look excellent. And you took it off the rack, and as the coat came towards you, so did the price ticket. You weren't so keen about the price ticket, and you went, better put that back quickly, right? Your love of the coat did not change. Your love of the price, you couldn't justify it. Just at that moment, you were about to put the coat back. Someone ran across. They said, I'm so sorry. So sorry. I was meant to mark that down. It's not £600. It's £30. You go, oh, I'll have it then. Again, your love of the coat did not change your justification of the price. You could now. This is the same. So, whatever service you have, you are solving someone's problem. They've got to emotionally buy into the problem and how you're going to solve it. They're going to emotionally buy into these are the pains they've got, and this is the outcome. This is the impact it's going to make. The problem world and the better world, the solved world. But most people want paying in money. Am I right, Mark? Most people's services is normally in
I
pounds.
think so, without going into too much detail about
Yeah,
the
without
alternatives.
getting too
Yes.
technical, too technical. And let's say they say, I get rid of anxiety, or I help with confidence, or I work with motivation. And then they say, well, that's brilliant. That sounds fantastic for me. You're going to help me out. How much is it? £3,000. I don't know what the word confidence is worth. Is it worth £3,000? It's very difficult now.
Mhm.
I emotionally got the problems. I've got the anxiety. I want the confidence, but can I justify, and I'm making a number up, £3,000. It could be £200. It doesn't matter. Someone could say, I don't charge 3,000, I charge 200. Okay, same question. Is the word confidence worth £200? There is no, if I did a maths formula, confidence plus 200 equals, what answer would I get? No idea. One's a number, one's a word. So people buy on emotions, justify with logic. If you only sell on emotions, don't be surprised when the person can't justify the purchase. It's a hard
Interesting.
game. It's an impossible game to win in most cases.
Yes, I'm sure when once you've now explained that, most people will get it, and that's the obstacle we've got to overcome somehow. If we're going to sell our services, that's what most people are selling, aren't they? They're selling a service as opposed to a product, which is you can't sort of touch and feel.
Yeah,
So how do you actually put a value on that until you've um, actually used it? And that's the difficulty, isn't it? Until you can't really see what value it's had. So we did a great exercise, didn't we?
this is the thing.
When we were working together,
Yeah,
We brought two of my clients in, and we sort of interviewed them. And
yeah,
from that interview, we found out what actually understanding what motivates you actually helps you to do. And it was quite
yeah,
staggering, wasn't it? I mean, it was
yeah.
amazing what came out of those two conversations. I don't know if you can remember what came out.
And yeah, loosely. I mean, I say to people, and I tend, my stuff, Mark. I tend to use weird analogies.
Yeah.
But if there was a small bug crawling across your arm or the table, chances are you, if don't please don't phone the RSPCA on this. But let's imagine it was a microscopic bug. You might splat it with your finger. You might smudge it with your finger. You wouldn't go and get a rocket launcher, right? You wouldn't need to. That would be overkill.
Yeah.
So we spoke to a couple of clients that you'd worked with, and maybe you charged a couple of £100 for whatever it was, but when we did the analysis on what the impact, it wasn't what you did, but the impact of what you did.
Hmm.
Suddenly they were like making £30,000, £50,000. Well, I think was it one had made £50,000 of extra business, one had made £30,000 in profit,
Hmm.
and suddenly you're thinking, hang on, a couple of £100 for 50,000. I mean, if you charged a couple of if I said to you, you give me 2,000 and I give you 50,000 back, it would still be a very good deal. It'd still be money back 25 times.
Yeah.
It didn't need to give you money back 250 times. But the thing
Yeah.
is, this is the problem. People don't understand. So they say most businesses will make you money, or save you time.
Hmm.
They'll be obvious. Some will, you know. Um, if you went to one of these gas and electricity companies, they say your bill was 600, now it's 500, I've saved you £100. You go to someone that does websites and they say, well, you should gain from extra clients another £100. You go to someone in a virtual assistant, they will save you time. And again, would you use that time more wisely?
Mm.
Would it make you money? Yes. But often with especially with heart-centered businesses that tackle with, health and anxiety and hope and anything along those, how do you put a money to it? But I say, look, if someone's got anxiety, what's it stopping them doing? If you're a business person, what would anxiety stop you doing? Is it reasonable to say it might stop you going to a networking? Or maybe you go to the networking, but you don't speak to many people. Or maybe you speak to many people, but you don't carry yourself in a way that has any confidence.
Yeah.
So tackle anxiety, go to more meetings, speak to more people in a better way. What's the result of that? Well, more clients. Somewhere down the line, not immediately, but some clients. What's the result of more clients? That's money. It's turned into money pretty quickly. But if you stop at I do confidence, don't be surprised when someone doesn't was struggling to understand what is the value of confidence, because it's just a word.
Indeed. Well, confidence when you talk about sales is essential, isn't it? Because if you're not confident in what you're selling, you're not confident in the process of selling, then it has obviously a detrimental effect with your ability to actually make the sale. So how do
Hugely.
you? So let's
Yeah.
just think about how that works with regards to how do you develop confidence with regards to selling. I'll, for me, the way I got more confident with selling is I realised that all I was doing was trying to solve a problem. I asked questions about was the problem important and what happened if they didn't solve the problem. And then once we got to that, then it's right, okay, so it seems like there is a problem that you want to change or want to actually solve. And then it's about, well, these are the solutions I suggest that you may be considering. And then it's the classic, A, B, or C, or bronze, silver, or gold. And then you get to the point of, well, which one do they choose? And it's about directing them what you think is the most appropriate. So there's
Yeah.
my layman's terms with regards to selling, and that's how I approach it since working with you and all the other things I picked up. Does that
Yeah.
sort of resonate? That's that the sort of thing
Yeah.
that you sort of talk
The
about?
first thing to do is take the word selling and lob it as far as you can away, right? They have a problem, you've got a solution, you're going to help them, right? It's a solution you have, whether it's a product, whether it's a service, what it actually is a solution. It's a solution to a problem they have, right? They have the problem, you have the solution. You're going to help them solve the problem. But this is key. Before they can use you, first they have to choose you.
Yeah.
So what you need to do is help make good choice so that you can help them with the thing you do. It's not selling helping, it's helping. Help them to make the best choice and then help them with what you do.
Mhm.
Well, suddenly, as a mind shift, people like helping. That's the one thing they do. They don't like selling, they do like helping. But you've got to help someone make a good choice. Well, if you're trying to make a good choice, that's all you're trying to do. Take the word selling, that's gone. They're trying to make a good choice. How can getting better at selling be the solution to how do you help someone make a good choice? Imagine you were trying to help your grandma decide which of the three holidays to go on. That's not selling, that's helping them make a good choice. The word selling would be nowhere near that. If you were trying to help your son pick the best football boots, you wouldn't sell him the boots, would you? You'd help him make the best choice. Which ones is he confident in? Which ones fit him? Which ones do the thing? It's helping. So why, in the madness of the world, does anyone think you need to sell to help someone make a good choice? It's lunacy, right? It
Brilliant.
doesn't stack up. It doesn't make sense. So now let's sack the word selling off and lob it and never mention it again. We've got to help people make choices. So going back to what you say, if they haven't got a problem, you haven't got a solution. If you go to the doctor and you sat down and before you even told him anything said, Mark, I've got a cream for you, you'd go, Doctor, I haven't told you what's wrong with me yet. You have to have a problem, right?
Yeah, I made me chuckle because there's this guy that keeps bombarding me, and he's obviously a software developer, and he keeps sending me all these emails telling me, "Tell me what solution you want me to create for you." I was thinking, I don't want any solution, thanks very much. And he was like, it's pointless. You know, the first question that guy should have be doing is, do you have any need for software in your business? Can I, you know, and I could quite easily have said, don't worry, no, I don't. Save your time. Keep emailing. I will never be buying software from you. So, you know, concentrate on speaking to other people rather than me. But he keeps bombarding me with all these emails, and it all takes time, and it seems pointless to me. But
But here's the
anyway,
thing. If he says to you, which problem would you like me to help you solve, right? So in this world, he's an expert, you are a beginner, right? Because if you do have a problem and he
mhm.
has got the solution, he can't be the expert because he'd have got rid of the problem, right? So is it possible that someone doesn't even realize they've got a problem? You know, if they, most of the time in most businesses, they might acknowledge one problem. You can see four others, but they don't even know these four exist. So how are they going to tell you what the four problems are when they don't even realize they were problems and that they had them? So
Well,
same to say,
isn't that
is your
what a lot of us up against? Because we are what we have to deal with in some cases is people that have self-diagnosed. So they've diagnosed what their problem is, and they're saying, "I'm going to find a solution for this." But actually, when we look at it, that isn't the problem. It's something more sort of fundamental that they need to get sorted before they actually do what they think they should do. Right? And it's almost like, you know, it's like going to the doctors and telling them what's wrong with you. It's like, why would you do that? Why didn't you
yeah.
find somebody that can solve your problem and ask them what they think is the best solution and go with what they suggest?
But
Um,
typically, if you go to the doctors, you would lead with something. You don't typically go in and I go, I haven't got a clue. It'll be an arm problem. It'll be a leg problem. It will be a throat. And you
mhm.
can pretend that, oh, I've got this, I've got diphtheria. What, and when exactly did you do your medical training? Right? I could put in anything into the computer and say, my knee hurts and my ear hurts. Have I got leprosy? And I'm sure it would say yes. Right? But it's also cobblers. But in the world of understanding, one of the biggest frustrations for solopreneurs, is that clients don't understand how the solution being offered solves their problem. They don't quite understand how the product, how the service will solve their problem. If that's all it was, it wouldn't be that bad. That's not the reality. The reality is they don't even think they've got a problem. If they think they've got a problem, they're probably only aware of one or two of the five problems, or the problems aren't actually that. And even when they think they've got a problem, they don't really realize how bad that problem is or the impact of the problem. Can I just do another one of my bizarre ideas just to show
Yep, go
this.
for it.
Have you ever had pins and needles, Mark?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And the last time you had pins and needles, did you drive to accident and emergencies at 120 miles an hour, slam it in, run straight through the accident and emergency section, kick everyone out the way, shout as loudly and as offensively as you like to get you the highest paid doctor now? There's going to be a nightmare in there. Did you do that?
No, I don't think I
No.
did. No.
Now, if your arm was about to fall off, it was hanging on by a thread, would you be far more inclined to go, please get me someone now? I need someone now. Would you be more likely?
That's more likely, yeah.
Yeah. Now, they're both arm problems, pins and needles in your arm falling off. Why didn't you do it with pins and needles, but you did do it for arm falling off? What was the difference?
Well, one was an emergency, and one was something that probably would solve itself if I just,
Yeah.
you know.
So it's the severity of the problem. So I've got a problem. The person comes to you, I've got a problem. But if in their mind their problem is not severe enough, or the repercussions are not severe enough, which normally they're not even aware of, it's just an anxiety problem and it's not much of an anxiety problem. Heaven forbid it's actually affecting the number of clients and money they're making. They never got that far, but it's just an anxiety problem and it wasn't that much of a problem. Am I going to pay to solve it? No. If it turns out it's a huge anxiety problem, and it's making a huge impact, am I more inclined? So knowing that you've got a problem is not enough. You've got to know you've got a problem, own you've got a problem, because helping an alcoholic that's not willing to admit they're an alcoholic is nigh on impossible. You want to help them more than they want help at that stage. You're wasting your time.
Yeah,
They've got to have a problem, own the problem, understand the problem, and realize how bad it is. All of that must happen before a solution's offered. Most
brilliant.
people want to get straight to solution. Have you got a problem? Yeah, something with my arm. Here's a cream. They can't get. They
I've got a
can't
cream
get
for that. Yeah.
quick enough. They
Okay.
so that's it. That's what It's about understanding.
Yeah, all makes sense. So I think this is an opportune time to bring in my 7-step model, which is, as I've mentioned in the book. So this is the 7 steps around the inside. It's the motivators that is in the book, and what we've been talking about here, and there's a few things in the 7 steps that are important. I think it's important to think about this stage, which is mirror, which is understanding yourself. So for me, I'm not driven by making money. It's not money isn't a driver for me, and I think that's one of the things that most people have an issue with regards to selling. We can have a talk about that in a second if you've got any views on that, Ian. But also, I think when we come to this evaluation, is what problem do we solve and how are we going to solve it? Has a key. One of the things that we've got to think about is how we're going to sell our service or our problem and how we solve it. But also, this systemize is key with regards to if you are going to sell a product, you have to have a system. And I think what I like about what you do, Ian, is you break it down to make it as simple as possible. And one of the things, I think we need to talk about that, how we make it simple, but without taking away the value. Because that's one of the things that we can oversimplify things to a point where they can think, well, I can go and solve that myself. I don't need your help anymore. So I'd be interested to have some input from you with regards to what you think about that. But so when we think about when we're selling, we have to understand ourselves well. That's why the mirror is important, and that's the first step. And then think about how you are going to sell your products, the evaluation stage with regards to how you're going to take your client from where they are to where they want to be. And then think about the systemizing of how you go about doing what you do with regards to finding your leads and then going through the sales process. And once you've got a process that you use regularly, then it becomes second nature. And also, I'd just like to also go back to what we talked about with regards to the work we did with the 2 clients that I had. Those 2 clients both told me that they were thinking about jacking it in and doing something completely different, so closing down their business. So one had an issue with regards to this motivator not being met. So they actually didn't really like some of the clients they were working with, so they had to think about how they actually got rid of some of the clients that they didn't really particularly like. And also, once they did that, they were able to increase their prices because the people that they really connected with, they saw their value, and then they weren't selling on price like you talk about. We don't want to sell on price, we want to sell on value. So that barrier was taken away because most of the people that they were having trouble with were the people that they didn't really get on with. So that was a big lesson to me. And another one that came into play with both those clients was about the expert. Being an expert in what they did was key, and so they were undervaluing and not really selling their expertise enough. And so one actually jettisoned a lot of the type of work they were doing, completely changed the type of services they would deliver at time, which is another key thing that comes up a lot. So there's a few thoughts with regards to motivation and also the 7-step process. Any thoughts on that, Ian?
Yeah, I've got a couple of things for a couple of the categories. So let's talk
Yeah.
about the price.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't demonstrate your value, don't be surprised when they focus on price. Why? Because it's typically one of the only things that's given to them. I do this and this is the price. The value's never explained, never demonstrated. So if you've given me two solid things and one thing's wishy-washy, don't be surprised when I focus on price. But when people focus on price, they make price choices, and a price choice is always a bad choice because there is always something cheaper. Doing it themselves badly and wasting their own time is the cheapest, right? Well, doing it actually is one cheaper than that. Doing absolutely nothing and hoping the problem magically goes away. That's the cheapest. Doing nothing, hoping it goes away. Doing it themselves badly and wasting their own precious time is the next one along the line. And the third one is going to a cheaper, inferior competitor that claims they'll do something like you, but they won't love you as much as they needed, and they'll get very terrible results. You've all seen that one of a horse drawn well and the back end's drawn by a child of 6. Drawing a horse isn't the problem. Drawing a horse to a high level is a problem, right? So if you don't demonstrate value, don't be surprised when they focus on value. If you're frustrated when they focus on price, you're the expert. It was your job to demonstrate the value, not their job to try and work it out. Now, confidence. If you're not confident selling yourself, how do you expect a potential buyer to be confident? If you don't believe that you are the best solution to their problem, how can you expect them to believe it? If you don't value your service, how do you expect someone else? So I have not studied NLP, body language, tone of voice, but I'm saying, does it stand to reason that maybe we pick up on something with the words that are used, the body language, the tone of voice, that it would give someone something to go, they don't seem that confident. I'm not that confident, right? So you've got to see, before you can demonstrate value, you've got to believe your own value. You've got to find out what your own value is. It might take you an hour to solve their problem, but it took you 25 years to learn it. That's the reality of it. You've heard that one about that bloke who goes in a submarine, hits it with a hammer, it's sorted, but it took him 20 odd years to learn it.
Yeah, he sends a bill in for £40,000, and they said, "What, £40,000 for like 1 minute's work or something?" He said, "Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the time it took to know which place to hit or something like that, isn't it?"
And yeah, so, it's there's so many different factors, but it's about understanding. The main thing is, do they understand what the problem is they have? Do they understand how severe their problem is? Do they understand how their solution this offered will solve it? Do they understand what impact it will make? Not just to the thing they're solving, the confidence or the health or the marketing, but what is the impact of that? I don't want a website per se. I want more clients taking more services for more money. The impact. It
Mm-hmm.
leads to money. That's what I want. If you said I could get rid of your website and give you £1 million, yeah, it's fine. I don't want the website. I want the £1 million. I want the money it generates. So we've got to get a little bit less absorbed in the one thing that we do and the impact of what it makes. And again, let's say you're not money or money motivated,
Mm-hmm.
but other people may well be. But as long as you sell on emotions and justify with logic, you're covering the entire spectrum. So if you had someone that was all emotions, they can play. If you had someone that was pretty much all logic, they can play. My background's a degree in mathematics. I love 6-year-old simple numbers. I'm not even convinced I'm human. Like emotionally, I'm not even convinced I'm human. So I'm right at that side. Most people are at the other side, but one without the other, emotions without logic, will always be a nigh on impossible game. When people say, if I had 10 conversations, one says yes, nine say no. That's why they might have all emotion. Because if you said, I'll do it for free, how many of those nine would have gone, yes, please? It was down to price and value. It wasn't the emotions. You've got to help people make better choices. Whatever you are, money motivated, money not, help them see both sides of the equation.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ian. Sadly, the half an hour has flown by. It has for me anyway. I knew this session would be entertaining because you have a way of explaining things that makes me chuckle, and I think that's important. When you're working with someone that's going to make you laugh, you're more than likely you're going to bond and actually take some action. That's key.
I didn't. I was going to wear a different tie today. I was going to wear that one instead, but it doesn't matter. I decided with this one in the end.
Thank you. You make the better choice.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ian. I hopefully catch up with you very soon. But for now, thank you for your time and have a great day. Right, there you have it, Ian. Now, if you struggle selling, then don't hesitate to get in touch with Ian. He has some great knowledge and a way of describing things that will help you overcome your sales challenges. And that's essentially what we need to do. Once you can overcome those challenges with regards to sale, then if you make sorts more sales, your business is going to flourish. And that's essentially what he helps you with. So if you have enjoyed this episode, then please let us know. Love to hear from you. And if you are someone listening to this and actually say, well, actually, I can add some value there, I'd love to come in and talk about what I do. So if that's the case, then don't hesitate to get in touch. Love to hear from you. And don't forget, as I mentioned, you can read all about my 7-step process in my book, Motivated, available from my website or from Amazon. And if you do get that book, really appreciate if you want to give it a review. If you don't think it's good enough to give a review, then obviously don't give me a bad review, but get in touch and tell me why. Tell me why you think it's not a good enough book. I'd love, again, to have a chat about that. So there we are. That's this episode of the Motivated Business Show. We will be back soon with another episode with another inspiring business owner. So until then, we bid you farewell and see you next time.